I am Erin Hamilton, and this is my final presentation on 3D printed weapons for course IDS 403, term 16 EW5. Social practices of 3D weapons. Although not practical yet, individuals around the world are beginning to design and print 3D weapons. From 2013 to 2014, we went from the world's first 3D printed gun, the Liberator, that cost about $8,000 to manufacture, to the development of a gun that's printer was about $1,700 and using only $25 worth of plastic. However, regulations regarding 3D printed weapons are still being worked on, such as if they will fall under the Undetectable Firearms Act. Currently, they do not. Force for social change. When we started coming up with ideas for 3D printers, we didn't think that they would be used for weapons. They were supposed to be used for bioprinting, computer parts, and things that could be useful to us as a society. But with 3D printers, if we can dream it, we can print it. Discipline of study. 3D printing has influenced our behavior in that we don't need to be a scientist in a fancy lab to access these 3D printers now. Currently, I can buy them from eBay, Amazon, or even Google. With this kind of access to this equipment, there isn't a sure way to regulate what someone prints in their home. In addition to this access, we can become more creative beings as well. Need a screw for the pictures hanging on the wall? Print it. Need a computer part and can't wait for the shipping from a website order? Print it. Usage of technology. Weapons aren't the only thing that the printers are used for. The printers can also be used in the medical field with bioprinting cells, which can form into organs and various tissues, or with screws to put bones back together. These items can be personalized to fit the patient. Or artists like John Edmart can now replicate Fibonacci numbers into his sculptures, created to replicate pine cones and sunflowers. Even our military is using 3D printers to print small parts that can be used in our computers and equipment because it's easier, faster, and cheaper to print it than it is to order it. Positive and negative impacts. Positive impacts of 3D weapons could be for our military and police force. If they got to a point where it could happen, they would be able to print these weapons and have them when they needed them. This is the only positive that I can currently see. Negative impacts for the 3D printing weapons would be a possible increase in crime and maybe an unknown amount of weapons in the world. However, this could kind of force us to live in a public panopticon-like situation where anybody could have a weapon. How do we know if they don't? And would it just be better to be paranoid and assume that they do? Societal issues. A societal issue with 3D printing weapons is the freedom versus security argument. How much freedom are you willing to give up in order for you to be okay with the level of security we have? 3D printed gun enthusiasts cannot be sure if they're being watched or not, and there are no laws in place as of right now. If we do catch up to technology and put a law into effect telling us that we can't print firearms, that essentially infringes on our right to bear arms. And on the other hand, how do we keep our citizens safe? Is this a social issue or a global issue? Benjamin Franklin said, "Those who surrender freedom for security will not have, nor do they deserve, either one." And as citizens, we are trusted not to harm others and to trust our government, though that's somewhat in decline in the past few years. It is supposed to be our government's job to balance our liberty and safety, but at what point do they do that job too well? So I think this is more of a social issue. Target population. Our target population here would be anyone with a 3D printer who can also download a CAD file, or users of free open source software and computer-aided design websites. And lastly, a large advocate for 3D printed weapons lately has been Defense Distributed, and their mission is to defend the human and civil right to keep and bear arms as guaranteed by the United States Constitution and affirmed by the United States Supreme Court, and to collaboratively produce, publish, and distribute to the public information and knowledge related to the digital manufacture of arms. Topic. My topic relating to the class was from Module 3 when we discussed freedom versus security. As a society, we need to look at security trade-offs, which Bruce Schneier tells us that there are some trade-offs that are impractical in a modern, consumer-oriented society, like when the FAA grounded all air traffic following the September 11th attacks. In the next chapter of Technology and Society, Building Our Socio-Technical Future, Monahan tells us that we think badly about future technology, in this case, 3D weapons. We as consumers want to think that people will only use it for bad purposes, but the trade-off in this case is who are they, or the government, to tell me what I can and cannot print. Is it worth violating my right to bear arms? Impacting. So who exactly is this impacting? It is impacting citizens who use pseudonyms because they fear prosecution, even though there are no laws just yet because the laws can't keep up with the technology. Predictions. Mike Adams, a consumer health advocate and health freedom activist for Natural News, says, 3D printing is a similar leap that brings a whole new wave of decentralized, non-authoritarian grassroots manufacturing technology to the masses. With 3D printing, millions of people can quietly and privately print the objects of their choosing without censorship or repression. The freedom to have these weapons gives the possibility of bringing liberty back to the people, like black powder muskets did to the colonists, securing our birth of a nation. And the United States State Department has already asked Defense Distributed to remove blueprints for the 3D printed weapons, and they removed them on the US websites, but not other websites around the world. And also, if something's on the internet, it's there forever. Recommendations. My suggestion for this is to start at the 3D printer manufacturers and to force the printer to embed a unique serial picture on everything it prints. Current technology. 3D printers do not currently leave a mark on the items, but it could be done if it's written into the CAD file. Regular firearms have a similar pattern that when a bullet is fired from a specific gun, the ballistics can match that bullet to that weapon. The serial photo would be something like a snap code that Snapchat uses, or a QR code that is used by taking a photo, then using a cell phone application designed for scanning these codes, and then they link it and open it in a website browser. In addition, each 3D weapon would be able to leave the serial photo would be something like a snap code that Snapchat uses, or a QR code that is used by taking a photo, then using a cell phone application designed for scanning these codes, and then they link it and open it in a website browser. In addition, each 3D weapon would be able to leave a ballistic serial mark that matches that bullet to that weapon. Industries affected would be the 3D printer builders, as well as the designers of the scanning applications and picture makers. Benefits. The benefit of my plan that would be in the event of someone using a printer for the wrong purposes, such as using a 3D printed weapon in a crime, each printer and bullet would be able to be serialized when the printer is registered, therefore traced. But if used for the right purposes, it could possibly save the military or police forces money, because instead of going through the red tape of ordering and making the service members and police are able to print the parts on the spot, taking time for ordering and the months that wait for the order to come in.